Imagine being abandoned in a foreign country, alone, with nothing but a note that reads, "You're 17, old enough to survive." This was the shocking reality for Lily, a young girl who thought she was going on a dream vacation with her parents. But, in a moment that would change her life forever, she was left behind, with no explanation, no apology, and no one to turn to. This is a story of unimaginable betrayal, unyielding survival, and the remarkable triumph of a young woman who overcame the odds stacked against her. At just 17, Lily was sent on what her parents called a reset trip to Greece. While she struggled with school and relationships, she saw this trip as an opportunity to bond with her parents. But after a few days, everything changed. Her parents vanished, leaving her stranded in a foreign land with no money, no passport, and no way to contact them. For days, Lily searched for answers, only to find that they hadn't just left her behind. They had erased her from their lives. Her return flight was canceled, and the U.S. Embassy confirmed her parents had removed her from their insurance and emergency contact list. It was as if she never existed. With no other options, Lily began a journey of survival. She found solace in a bakery where Maria, a kind woman in her 60s, gave her a place to stay and work. Over time, Lily learned to wash dishes, mop floors, and bake bread. She didn't ask questions. Maria never pried into her past. Instead, she offered the one thing Lily needed most: safety. In this small space, Lily began to rebuild. She taught herself, finding online resources, fixing up a broken laptop, and working toward a GED. Every step forward was a step toward freedom. But Lily's story didn't end there. What followed was a transformation. Through grit, determination, and the lessons she learned from Maria, she built a successful business, helped others, and found her own path to empowerment. Yet, as the years went on, Lily could not forget the betrayal. She turned her pain into power, eventually buying her parents' house, once the symbol of their new life without her. In an unexpected twist, Lily made her parents face the consequences of their actions. This is a story of not just surviving, but thriving. It's about turning pain into purpose, building something real after being abandoned, and taking control of your own destiny. Lily's journey proves that no matter how hard life gets, we all have the power to rewrite our story and rise from the ashes. Stay tuned to hear how this incredible tale of betrayal, survival, and triumph unfolds. When Lily first set foot in Greece, she had no idea that this would be the place where everything in her life would change. What was supposed to be a meaningful family trip, a reset for her and her parents to bond and reconnect, turned into something she could never have imagined. Lily had hoped this trip would help heal the strained relationships at home and give her a chance to rebuild. Little did she know, this trip would mark the beginning of her nightmare. The first days of the trip were awkward, but there was still hope. The family enjoyed gelato by the beach, visited ruins Lily didn't care about, and took smiling photos for Facebook. Those fleeting moments of joy were the only happiness Lily thought would last. Her mom even held her hand while they waited in line for the ferry to Santorini, a gesture that was rare for her mother. Lily thought, maybe this is it. Maybe we're starting over. But one morning, as they were preparing to fly back to the U.S., everything changed. They had breakfast together at the hotel buffet. Her mother wore her coral lipstick, the one she only used for special occasions. Her dad had his usual black coffee, reading the paper without turning the page. Everything seemed normal, but the change came just before checkout. Suddenly, her mother turned to her and said, "We're just going down the street to get some souvenirs. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Lily nodded, barely looking up from her phone, texting her friend about how the family trip was going. But time passed. 15 minutes turned into an hour, then 2 hours, then 3. Her parents still didn't return. When Lily asked the hotel staff if they had seen her parents, the clerk looked at her and said, "Oh, the couple from room 302, they checked out this morning." Lily ran to her room, but the key card no longer worked. When she opened the door, everything was gone. Her luggage, her passport, even her backpack. It was as if she had never been there. She called her parents' phones, but they went straight to voicemail. Her texts never sent. In a daze, Lily went to the U.S. Embassy the next morning. Desperate and sleepless, a woman in a navy blazer listened, carefully typed something into her computer, and then turned to Lily with a cold expression. Your return flight was canceled. Your name's no longer listed under their health insurance. Lily felt the weight of the betrayal hit her like a ton of bricks. They hadn't forgotten her. They had erased her from their lives. That was the truth. The overwhelming sense of abandonment and being erased from the very life she had once known was something Lily could not comprehend. She wasn't just abandoned, she was wiped out from their existence. Her parents had taken her out of the picture, leaving her to fend for herself in a foreign country. The pain was unbearable, and Lily didn't know what to do or where to go. But all she had left now was her name on a piece of paper and the overwhelming sense of loss. Lily stood still in the middle of a Greek city, not knowing what to do or where to go. The overwhelming feeling of confusion engulfed her. But gradually, the harsh truth began to sink in. Her parents hadn't just abandoned her, they had erased her from their lives. She no longer existed in their world. With no passport, no money, and no knowledge of Greek, Lily was left with nothing but a phone that could no longer make calls and a note that read, "You're 17, old enough to survive." That phrase repeated in her mind like a harsh sentence, tearing apart any hope she had left. For the next few days, Lily sought help from anyone around her, but no one could assist her. She had no friends, no family, and was left to struggle in this foreign land on her own. Every morning, she wandered the city, searching for shelter, hoping to meet someone willing to help. But all her efforts were in vain. No one knew who she was, and no one cared. One day, when Lily was starving and had nothing left to eat, she decided to approach a bakery nearby to ask for some food. As she walked toward the back door of the bakery, she never expected that a significant change would come from this moment. She slowly approached the table where some leftover bread was cooling, but then she heard footsteps, and suddenly a hand grabbed her wrist. Lily froze, expecting it to be the police or someone trying to arrest her, but the person who grabbed her wasn't anyone threatening. It was Maria, the bakery owner. Maria, a woman in her 60s, didn't scold Lily. Instead, she looked at her with sharp eyes and simply said, "If you're hungry, you work." Lily was surprised, but she quickly realized this was the only opportunity she had. Maria led her inside the bakery and started showing her simple tasks like washing dishes, mopping floors, and cleaning. There were no questions, no sympathy. Maria didn't ask about Lily's past. She just needed Lily to work, and that was the only way she could survive. In the days that followed, Lily started to adjust to her new life, doing the simple tasks Maria assigned her. These long hours of hard work didn't just provide her with meals, they gave her a temporary shelter. Though her sleep was not enough and everything was difficult, Lily began to feel like she could get back on her feet. Every day, she learned more from Maria, not just about baking, but about how to live resiliently, without complaining, and never giving up. Maria taught Lily not only how to make bread, but also how to face hardships without fear, even though no one told Lily she could rebuild her life. Deep down, she felt that she could. Every time she looked at the bread she made, she felt a small sense of pride. It was the first sign that she could overcome. It wasn't much, a small job, but for Lily it was survival. As time went on, Lily began to adapt to her new life in Greece. The days of working at Maria's bakery slowly became a part of her, and no longer was it just about surviving the day. She had learned how to bake, clean, wash dishes, and perform. A variety of tasks she never thought she could do. But the most important lesson Lily learned was patience and faith in herself. Though the work was hard, it provided her with a sense of security, and more importantly, it made her feel that she still had value, that she could stand tall despite being abandoned. One day, as Lily sat resting by the bakery window, gazing out at the busy streets, she began to reflect on the days before this journey started. She remembered the nights spent sitting in her room, the arguments with her parents and friends. She remembered the silence of her home, listening to her mother's harsh words and her father's indifference. Those memories resurfaced, but now, Lily no longer felt the same helplessness she had before. She realized something. What had happened in the past didn't define her. It was a lesson that allowed her to grow. Lily was no longer the weak girl, who once felt unworthy of her parents' love. She started to believe in her own strength. She learned how to do everything on her own, from researching online to studying for her GED to learning how to manage her finances. The old laptop she found behind the bakery became her loyal companion. She spent hours fixing it, using it to connect to the internet and study. The online courses, assignments, and free resources slowly replaced the hours of work at the bakery, creating a new life for Lily, a new purpose. Not only did she gain knowledge, but Lily also learned how to confront herself. Every time she felt tired, unsure of whether she could keep going, she would look at the small sign hanging in the bakery. If you're hungry, you work. It wasn't just a simple saying. It became a philosophy of life that Lily had adopted. She understood that life doesn't allow for too much rest. If you want to change, you have to take action, no matter how difficult it may seem. One afternoon, when the sun was beginning to set, Maria sat beside Lily and said, "My daughter was just like you, always curious, always wanting to learn, never stopping." Lily didn't ask about Maria's daughter. She knew it was a subject Maria didn't want to revisit. But those words made Lily feel a strange connection, a sense that someone else, though not family, understood her. With determination and persistence, Lily began to learn how to make money from what she had learned. She delved into investment programs and stocks, studied online business methods. She didn't just focus on getting her GED. She also learned how to manage her finances and invest in stocks of a Greek company she happened to read about in a crumpled business magazine. What started as small investments soon grew into enough capital for her to venture into other opportunities. As the months went by, Lily began to feel the change within herself. She was no longer just working to survive. She began to see new opportunities. The hours spent at Maria's bakery no longer felt like a burden. Instead, they became an essential part of her personal growth. Every day, Lily learned more than just how to bake. She learned about life, perseverance, and self-reliance. Maria, though not very talkative, had become a silent mentor to Lily, teaching her through small actions that survival wasn't just about food. It was about the ability to stand up after every fall. Gradually, Lily started to realize that her life wasn't solely determined by circumstances, but by the choices she made. Once she built up enough confidence, Lily began seeking new opportunities. She started reading more about fields that interested her. One of the most important lessons Lily learned during this time was about seizing opportunities. That's why, when she came across a new investment opportunity, she didn't hesitate. It was a bold move, but thanks to her knowledge and determination, Lily was able to reap the rewards. Lily began to get involved in the stock market, and her initial small investments soon yielded surprising results. After learning and researching, she began to find investment opportunities that were right for her. The money she earned from these investments provided her with the capital to develop her business plans. She was no longer the girl with nothing, but a woman who had built a career for herself, even in a foreign land. One of Lily's key decisions was to start offering consulting services to small businesses. Not only did she help suppliers improve their supply chains, but she also assisted small investors in finding new opportunities. The relationships and knowledge Lily had gained from working at the bakery had allowed her to expand her network and build a reputation in the consulting field. Each client, each new project was a step forward, an opportunity for Lily to prove her capabilities and solidify her position in the industry. However, despite the success she had achieved, Lily could never forget her past. She could not forget what her parents had done to her, and she could never shake the feeling of abandonment. One day, as she sat on an old couch in her small room, Lily suddenly thought about the house her parents had bought after abandoning her. She remembered the family photos, the promises they made that everything would change, that they would never leave her. But those promises had been erased along with their departure. This feeling was not just pain, it was a drive. Lily decided that, one day, if she had the chance, she would return and take back what was rightfully hers. She wanted her parents to see that. Even though they had abandoned her, she could still stand tall and rebuild her life. And when the opportunity came, she didn't hesitate. Lily was no longer the helpless, destitute girl she once was. She had become a strong, independent woman, full of determination. Each day she saw more clearly that she had come so far, achieved so much, and yet there was one thing that still called to her: the need to show her parents that, despite their abandonment. She could stand tall and achieve success without them. One day, as she sat in her office, looking at the numbers on her computer screen, an unexpected notification popped up in her email. The house her parents had purchased after abandoning her was facing financial difficulties and was being put up for foreclosure. Lily's mind instantly clicked into action, not out of spite or joy, but because she saw an opportunity that had been waiting for her all this time. This was the moment she could go back and claim what was rightfully hers, the house that they had left behind. She wasn't the weak little girl anymore. She was a woman who had built her own career and could take back what belonged to her. With the financial management skills she had learned along the way, Lily didn't hesitate. She contacted a real estate company, got familiar with the procedures, and prepared herself for the auction. Soon, she was ready to participate in the auction for her parents' house. On the day of the auction, Lily was there, but no one recognized her. She dressed professionally, maintained a calm demeanor, and looked at the house that had once been a part of her life as though it was just another transaction. Her parents weren't there, but Lily knew they had received the notification about the auction. As the bidding began, she didn't hesitate to raise her paddle. Others joined in, but Lily kept her focus and resolve. In the end, when the bid reached the highest price she could afford, the auctioneer's voice rang out, "Sold!" to bidder number 173. Lily remained calm, unexcited, just sitting quietly. The house that her parents had abandoned was now hers. The feeling of victory wasn't the joyful emotion she had imagined. It was simply peace, a sense of liberation. She knew that when her parents received the notification that the house had been sold and who the buyer was, they would be shocked. But Lily didn't care. She didn't need to have an emotional confrontation with them. She just wanted them to know that she was no longer the girl they could easily abandon. She had stood up, rebuilt her life from the pieces they left behind, and now she owned a part of the past they thought they had forgotten. Lily had reclaimed the house she once called home, but what she truly sought was not ownership or revenge. She had no intention of destroying her past, but rather, she wanted to show her parents that she could live without them. The house, though, now hers, felt like something more. It felt like the final chapter she needed to close in her story. She knew this meeting wasn't about seeking forgiveness, but about completing her journey. One afternoon, as Lily sat in her office, staring at the numbers on her screen, an unexpected email popped up. It was a notice about the foreclosure of her parents' house. Lily didn't feel joy or excitement. Instead, she saw an opportunity. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she could go back and claim what was rightfully hers. The house her parents had abandoned her in. She wasn't the helpless little girl anymore. She was a woman who had built herself up from scratch, and now she could take back what was hers. With the financial skills she had learned, Lily didn't hesitate. She contacted a real estate firm, got familiar with the procedures, and prepared herself for the auction. Soon she was ready to participate in the auction for her parents' house. On the day of the auction, Lily arrived early, sitting quietly in the corner of the room. When her parents walked in, they didn't recognize her at first. Her father was carrying a worn folder with papers inside, while her mother seemed nervous. They sat down in front of Lily, waiting for her to speak. But Lily didn't say anything at first. She just stared at them, reflecting on everything that had happened. Finally, she took a deep breath and spoke. "You abandoned me. You left me in a foreign country with nothing but a note that said, 'You're 17, old enough to survive.' You thought I wouldn't make it. But I did. And now, I own this house. The house you left behind." Her voice was calm, not angry, just steady with quiet resolve. Her mother trembled and tried to speak, but her words faltered. Her father looked down at the floor, unable to meet her gaze. Finally, her mother whispered, "We thought, if we disappeared, you wouldn't hate us anymore." Lily was taken aback, but she didn't let emotions overwhelm her. She looked at her mother, not to blame her, but to face the truth. "I don't hate you," Lily replied. "It's just that you made me believe I didn't matter, that I wasn't worth loving. But now, I know I am, and I built this life for myself." The room fell silent. No one spoke for a long while. Finally, the lawyer entered, signaling the end of the meeting. Lily stood up, feeling no anger or sadness, only relief. She had cleared everything in her heart, and now there was nothing left to regret. As she left the office, Lily felt like she had finally stepped out of the shadow of her past. No longer were those memories painful, they were valuable lessons. The house she had reclaimed wasn't just a property, it was a symbol of her growth, of rebirth. She returned to that house, not for revenge, but to create a new home, a place where love and compassion would be nurtured. She started opening the doors to young girls who had experienced what she had, helping them rediscover hope and opportunity. Lily had not just survived, she had overcome every challenge and rebuilt her life from the ashes. The house that once represented abandonment now stood as a place of refuge, a home where people could find support, love, and hope. And with each passing day, Lily felt she was closer to her ultimate goal, to live a life of freedom without needing to explain or justify herself to anyone. She had been through it all, and now she was ready to live the life she always deserved.